Hello everybody, Nick here at Scoggin-Dickey. We appreciate you stopping by for one of our weekly videos. Notice how I didn't say tech video. We have been doing a lot of tech videos lately covering all sorts of topics from, the material on your pistons when you're doing an engine build, dyno and cams like we did last year. We got another dyno video coming up here, hopefully here pretty soon before SEMA kicks in our inventory. But a lot of the questions that we get when we get phone calls from our customers, messages on Facebook and YouTube, that's where we get the ideas for these videos. A lot of times people want those videos. A lot of times they want to know about products that have been out and they just haven't learned about them yet. So we're starting a new segment that we're going to throw in with the tech video segments, and it is product features, products that have come out or have already been out for some time that y'all don't seem to know about. And the one I have in front of me today are engine swap parts specifically for GenIII Hemi. Now, of course, when LSs came out very quickly, in just a matter of a couple of years, everybody was trying to figure out, what motor mounts you need, what tranny crossmember and old pans, what fits this, what fits that, and they hit the ground running, and it's taken off. Same thing with the Coyote. The Coyote came out, and in just a few years, they did the same thing. They figured out, how do you put this in an old Fox body or a classic Mustang or maybe even a Ford Torino or a pickup. When the Hemis came out though, unfortunately, it kind of seemed like they got the short end of the stick, and a lot of people were having to bust out a welder, some spare metal, and do it the old-fashioned way, which I love, but a lot of times we're just project guys. We got an old, 74 Charger our dad handed down to us, and we're trying to figure out how to, make it so you can actually take out the wife and kids on a weekend cruise. Well, Holley, over the years, has been gathering up different brands like hotcakes. And luckily for us, that means they can take all these different brands, pool the resources together, and start making us some great parts. And over the past few years, they've been coming out with some really trick stuff. They finally came out with some Hemi swap parts earlier this year for a lot of different vehicles. What we're going to be talking about today, classic Mopars, your E-body, B-body, A-body, those kind of things. So let's go over some of the stuff that they offer to make this a lot easier on y'all. The biggest one, of course, are your motor mounts. They have finally made some brackets to adapt your GenIII Hemis, and this is 03 and up, all of them, to classic Crossmembers, K-members as y'all call it on some of those old cars. That way you can use stock style motor mounts and the K-member, but still use the Hemi factory mounting points. So this is kind of a big deal, and it keeps it real nice and simple. And of course, just like with a lot of these products, it does come with all the mounting hardware, so you're not chasing them down at the hardware store. On the transmission side of that, same thing. They've come out with transmission crossmembers, and of course, because they have prothane transmission mounts, a nice solid urethane motor mount to keep, or transmission mount to keep that nice and solid under hard launches. The crossmembers here are available not only for the different chassis, but for different transmissions for you guys that are wanting to do, a 727 torque flight, or the 5-speed automatic that came in like 03 to 09 Hemis, or the new 8-speed that came after that. That's a big deal with a lot of these swaps. If you got room in the tranny tunnel, if you got the electronics from your donor vehicle and you can run that transmission, those things perform really well. We got a few employees here that have factory vehicles with those transmissions in them. They run like a bat out of hell. So if you can run it, run it. But they have the cross members to fit all your needs. I think the biggest hurdle though has been the oil pans. Both Ford and Chevy on their swaps, more than half the time, you can use a factory oil pan, or it was very easy to adapt an oil pan to fit or make an aftermarket oil pan. In the case of the Hemis, all this stuff got kind of weird. Those classic K-members underneath those cars, they require a kind of a center sump oil pan, and that makes it a little bit difficult. Everything that came from Dodge was car or truck in the modern Hemi, so it's a rear sump pan. So Wyand finally came out with a super nice fabricated oil pan here. This has a very thick gasket rail, so no leaks. The welds on this are really nice, and if you can see in there, you don't get full baffling, but this little plate here does help keep it from sloshing up on the sides when you're doing hard acceleration. Or maybe a handful of you guys that are trying to get into the pro touring circuit and trying to, go on like a hot rod power tour, the Optima Street Car Challenges, stuff like that, and you don't want that oil sloshing up on the sides or sloshing up to the front when you're hitting the brakes or hitting the corners pretty hard. This comes complete as well. Comes complete with hardware and the pickup tube to match. So that way, you take whatever pan and pickup tube came off your donor, put this on, put on these motor mount brackets, and you're good to go. Now, we're definitely happy to see this stuff here. We actually have been getting a lot of calls about this. More and more modern Hemi performance is picking up. You guys are wanting to trick out your old rides, and we love it. So we appreciate you guys stopping by for what is one of the first of our new featured segment. We hope you stop by next week while we have another feature or tech video for you. Be a surprise. See you then.